I have no enemies. As you can see, I have a shirt on that says I have no enemies. And we got a picture of Thorfinn. Now, this is an anime called Vinland Saga, but we're not going to talk much about that. We will talk much about the statement, I have no enemies, though, because I believe nobody has enemies. And I believe this is a very stoic mindset. The stoic, I believe, would say he has no enemies externally. All of the stoic's enemies are internal. Everyone's enemies are internal. I say a stoic because that's the point of view that philosophy takes. But I agree, or I believe, that's how it is for everybody. You don't have to agree or not agree with it. It's the truth. No one, as Socrates says, it's better to be wronged than to do wrong. Because being wronged, you have no say. You have no control if you're wrong or you're righted. But you do have control if you wrong somebody or if you do right by them. You do have control in that sense. Therefore, it is much greater to suffer or to do a harm than it is, or is much worse to do a harm than it is to suffer a harm. And the enemies we have, like I said, are inside. The enemies who do harm to others, or the inside of you that wants to do harm to others, the inside of you that tells you to steal, tells you to cheat, your lower self, that is your enemy. And that is the obstacle. As Marcus Aurelius says, the obstacle is the way. And how you can view that in your internal state, I believe, it's to show you what you need to be on guard against. Because we shouldn't suppress emotions, but we shouldn't act upon them. We shouldn't act upon all emotions. Suppressing is not what should happen, because if you suppress, then, as we know, it's not good, and it boils up and eventually, boils over, and you blow up at a small thing that, did not deserve the reaction it got. And you can't take stuff like that back. You say things you regret, you do things you regret, and things like that can never be taken back. And they stay with you for the rest of your life. So we shouldn't suppress, but we should think rationally and not trust our emotions and think, is this right? I feel angry at this person. I say many times on here and still agree the notion that no soul is willingly deprived of the truth. And if I truly believe that, I have no right to ever be mad at another human ever again. How can I be mad at someone who doesn't know they're doing wrong? And how can I even be sure somebody is doing wrong? I don't know. I think I know, but I don't have, I wasn't handed a rule book for rights and wrongs handed from, the universe. I don't know. I can't say for certain. Nobody can. Nobody can say for certain. So you need to be tolerant with these people and understand that they're not willingly deprived of the truth. And it may be you who is deprived of the truth. But realize that nobody does wrong willingly, and you have no right to ever be upset at someone ever again. You can pity them, but you should try, instead of pitying them, to show them where they went wrong without being passive aggressive, without being condescending, without trying to show that you are better. You should truly come to them from an angle of, trying to help and saying, this is how you should go about this, I believe. And try to help them and show them rationally and logically. If you can show someone something rationally and logically, you have a way better chance of them changing their ways. And isn't that what we really want? If you're angry at somebody for wronging you and you want them to change, shouldn't you go about it in the best way possible to provoke change? I see so many people who instantly insult somebody when they're trying to get them to change their ways. That is not the way to go about it. Because instantly they're on guard. Instantly. Someone's overweight and you say they're fat in a mean way, like you can call someone fat and it's not that mean, and you can call someone fat and like your tone and your body language and your facial expressions are like, oh, wow, that's, you really meant that to hurt me. You can say things, you can say two things, you can say the exact same thing in two different ways, and you will perceive it from body language and tone, and the two same things you say can be perceived as helpful or trying to help, and rude and mean. And if we're truly trying to help people and we truly want people to change, shouldn't we go about it in the way that they'll make the most sense for them to listen? And that's not shaming them, because like I said, they instantly go on guard. And then you could start off with shaming and then give rational, logical points, but they're on guard now, and now they're defensive. And even if they know they're wrong, they're going to try to sit there and defend their ways because they feel they've been wronged, and they don't want to be wronged and then give in to their criticism. They're immediately defensive. But if you come from a place of love, a place of being kind and trying to be helpful, you have a better chance of changing someone's ways. And isn't that all we truly want? Like I said, if you're mad someone's wronging you, do you want them to change? Yes or no? Yes. So then shouldn't you help them change? Yes or no? Yes. Shaming them, is that going to help? No. Bringing valid logical points, not being passive aggressive, is that going to help? Potentially. And that's the avenue you go. It's not rocket science. But the true enemies we have are not these people. Not these people that we're frustrated with. Because things are neither good nor bad. Thinking makes them so. Inside, that is the enemy. Your judgments. Your judgments are the enemy. I have no external enemies. I have no enemies. You have no enemies. And even the internal enemies we have, I don't believe are really our enemies. Because they're there. They're there to help us. They're there to put us on guard. They're there to, improve us in a sense. What would Hercules have been without his labors? What are we without demons? What fun would it be in pursuing moral excellence and unlocking your potential and being the best version of yourself if everyone was? If it came easily? If you were just born virtuous? What's the point of, it's like if there's no evil in the world, there is no good. And if there's no good in the world, there is no evil. There's no Batman without the Joker. You need these two things. So therefore, the internal things aren't even an enemy, because things like, courage can't even be real without cowardice. Discipline and, temperance can't be a thing without self-indulgence. There is no virtue if there is no vice. So these things truly aren't even enemies at the end of the day. So therefore, we have no enemies. And especially no external enemies. Because everyone's doing what they believe is to be best. That's all you're doing. That's all he's doing. That's all she's doing. That's all anybody is doing. What they believe is to be best. And if somebody is doing what they believe to be best, and they are wrong in a matter of utmost importance, don't they deserve pity instead of harsh rebuke? The truth is nobody has any enemies. It's all just our judgments. It's all just thinking. Thinking makes things good. Thinking makes things bad. The same situation befalls two people. One sees the upside, one sees the downside. One views it as good, one views it as bad. Therefore, the situation must be indifferent. Because if it was something, say good or bad, it would have to be viewed that as everybody. That's what the Stoics use to say that death isn't bad, because they have a clear-cut example in Socrates. Because Socrates didn't fear death. Socrates welcomed death, welcomed it as better than betraying his virtue. Therefore, the Stoics say, well, if death was bad, everyone would agree, and Socrates doesn't, so it must therefore be indifferent. It therefore must be our thoughts that make death out to be what it is, because Socrates didn't agree. You have no enemies. The person who wronged you, the person who's mean to you, they are misled in matters of utmost importance. Like I said, pity is deserved, not anger. And as Marcus Aurelius says, the best revenge is to not be like that. The best revenge is to show love to the wrongdoer, to show them that there's another path, to show them that this is not how rational creatures should act. The best revenge is to not be like that. An eye for an eye makes the world go blind. And all it takes is one person to say no, and the world won't go blind. Are you going to be that person? Or are you going to hope someone else is that person? Are you going to say, yeah, I agree, but I got really wronged. Like I was really, really wronged. Like most people aren't wronged like I was wronged. You know, complaining gets you nowhere. Self-pity is not a utility. Self-pity is a waste of time. Self-pity, saying woe to me, never got anyone anywhere, but deeper into sadness, depression, and a feeling that the world has wronged them and the world does not like them. Where does that get you? Where does that get you? Nowhere whatsoever. Nowhere good, at least. It gets you somewhere, but nowhere where you want to be, and nowhere where anyone wants to be. You have no enemies. I have no enemies. The truth is, nobody has any enemies, because nobody is willingly deprived of the truth. War. I heard a line recently, and it said, history doesn't repeat itself. Human nature does. And if that's true, then we'll have another war soon enough. And soon is such a relative term, in the grand scheme of time. But it's almost ignorant to believe that there will be no more wars. We've been on the brink of World War III for like a couple of years now. So it's like, yeah, there'll be another war. But it's so sad. when you think about it, when you truly think about it, you are going to kill somebody who was born somewhere else by chance. I was born in America by chance. I could have been born in Russia. I could have been born in Ukraine. I could have been born in Israel. I could have been born in Egypt, Africa, Mexico, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, China, Vietnam. I could have been born in any of these places, completely outside of my control, where I was born, who my parents are, all those things. And yet, we detest and want to kill and want to take from people that we don't even know. That we don't even know. Think about all the wars that happened. People killed people who probably were a lot like themselves, who probably they would have been friends with in another life, in another time, if fate just had to be different, if fate just happened to lead them, make them born as neighbors, but instead they were born a different type of neighbor. They were born a neighbor of the universe, of this world, but for some reason, we don't view life like this. We don't view everyone as citizens of the universe. We view each other as citizens of America or citizens of Russia. And then we have walls and we have borders and we have all these things that divide us to keep us away, to keep our own little areas safe from war. And it's sad. And I'm not saying that, we need to knock down all the borders and there is no easy fix for this because it's so ingrained in as humans, Like I said, human nature, history doesn't repeat itself, but human nature does. And it's what humans have always done. Like, the Peloponnesian War was like 2,500 years ago. So many people died. There was wars in China just as long ago. So many people died. There's been wars for, as long as there's been humans. Almost a part of human nature, and it's sad. But in reality, these people aren't our enemies. And these people never were enemies. They were told they were. They fought for some reason they believed right on both sides. Both sides viewed each other as wrong. And like we said a minute ago, that means it must be indifferent. If it was truly right or truly wrong, everyone would view it the same way. But they don't. No one goes to war believing I'm wrong. Both sides believe they're right, and they're going to go risk their lives for it. It's an unfortunate part of human nature and history, and something that probably can't be avoided. But the truth is, we have no enemies. Greed and envy are what bring about these emotions in people and bring about wars and bring about all this stuff. The need for externals, the want and desire to be like another, to have what another has because it looks like they are doing better or they're having a better life because of this external thing they have, when truly all that matters is internal. we have no enemies. The happiest people are the people who have forsaken this external world, I believe, have forsaken these things that people hold at utmost value, and they've given the value to the internal state. They've given value to peace of mind, tranquility. And then the people who have ruined the world focus on externals. They focus on the social status, honor, well, honor in a different sense of honor in a military sense. Many societies or groups have placed the highest value in dying in battle. The Vikings. Imagine growing up in a culture that says, to get to heaven, Valhalla, you must die in battle. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to say no battles are going on? No wars are being waged? How am I going to get to Valhalla? Yeah, it's like, let's go wage a war. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. But the truth really is the only enemy is internal. And even then, it's a teacher. Not to be viewed as an enemy, but as to help us, show us our weaknesses, to show us what we must guard against, to show us that we have faults too, to show us that, there's a wrongdoer, but me and the wrongdoer have a nature similar. I've too in the past maybe committed the same wrong he just committed. I've learned, I've changed, but does that make me any better than him? I too used to believe that was right. I too used to believe that was good. I too used to believe that was necessary. I've had the urges to do what this man's done. Am I any better than him? Yes, I didn't act on him. Maybe once or twice, but maybe once or twice I have. In this instance, he's the one doing the action, and I'm the one rebuking him. But tomorrow I could be the one doing the action, and he could be the one rebuking me. That's why it's so powerful to know yourself, to know your faults. I forget who says it, but um, it's like a line talking about, we're both born with two bags on our head or something. And it's like one's right here, right under your nose, and that's everyone else's faults. And the other one is, it's big, right in front of your nose, massive, everyone's faults. And the other one is teeny, and it's right here, it's in your blind spot. You can never see it, and that's your faults. Other people's faults are so apparent, so obvious to us. And we say, how can they do this? It's so clear. But that's what people are saying about us. They look at us and they see the back of our head and they say, wow, he's got a lot of faults. I wonder why he does that. It's like, well, I can't see him. You know what I mean? And you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that other people's faults are so clear to us and our faults are so blurry. That's why you truly must know yourself. And seeing what people think of you, people who are credible, is very beneficial. And having conversations is very beneficial. That's Socrates' favorite way of learning. Dialogue. He says he has a dialogue with um Alcibiades, butcher his name, but basically one of Socrates's friends, if you could say. Um, Younger than Socrates, but they went to wars together. They partook in dialogues together. They both saved each other's lives. Uh, that's without, it doesn't really matter though. But they have a conversation, and Socrates says, like, do you know what's written above, like at the temple of Apollo in Delphi? And he says, know thyself. And he says, it could better be, it could better be translated as like having an eye see your own eye. Like, how does an eye see an eye? And I'm just going to call him Alec because I don't know, or Alec. Yeah, Alec. Um, Alec is like, well, a mirror, you can see yourself through a mirror. And he's like, good, but what else? And Socrates says, an eye. When you look into someone else's eye, you can see yourself in their pupil. Your eye can see its own eye through another one's eye. And that's how he says the soul has the best time of glimpsing itself in conversation with another, in conversation with another soul. Because often we don't even, you're known by your actions. You may believe you are a certain way, but your true colors come out in conversation, in discourse, in dialogue, in how you act and how you treat people. That's how you know yourself. And that's how you can learn the most about yourself. You may think you're a well spoken, courageous individual who is a leader. But when the time comes and you stutter and trip over your words and you have trouble finding the right words and you're quiet and no one listens to you, you're none of those things you thought you were.